We have one guest in the studio. We're waiting to be joined by a second guest in the studio. Before we introduce the guests, let's hear the day's proverb.
Today's proverb is from Angola, the country of Angola. Don't despise the nut. One day it will be a palm tree.
Don't despise the nut. One day it'll be a palm tree. Okay.
I said, don't despise the palm tree. One day it will produce a nut.
Which will one day
be a palm tree.
Okay. Okay. This is from the country of Angola.
Angola.
Okay. What do they speak?
Portuguese.
Why?
Because they were colonized by the Portuguese.
Why can't they speak their own language?
They do have traditional language.
Yeah.
But the official language is Portuguese.
Why? Anyway,
Sheesh.
what is their Kiswahili?
It's called what? I'll remember in a minute, I'll tell you. But for now, see, I'll tell you in a minute. I know it's on the tip of my tongue. You know how that thing is on the tip of your tongue and then it just disappears?
Yes. Yes. Consult your mind, your brain a little bit as we introduce Newton Babior. But Newton Babior is an author. Newton, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you in the Situation Room.
Thank you. I always watch this show.
Always.
And I love to watch this show.
Uh-huh.
If there's one show which keeps me balanced, it's this one.
Balanced.
Yes, because I think there's a lot of balance and all the discussion which always come here, they keep you thinking. Like what the quote he has just said. It keeps me thinking. I think I'm the palm,
You're the nut.
I'm the nut.
Wow.
Yes. It keeps me thinking, just right there. Yes.
So one day,
Yes,
you'll be a palm tree.
for sure.
Newton, what do you do?
Babior Newton is a hustler.
Huh?
And
So you're in Kenya Kwanza.
for sure, I am a supporter of William Ruto.
Okay.
And being supporter of William Ruto does not mean you should be in Kenya Kwanza. You can support him from home. You can support him from in a small ways. You can support him by emulating how he's doing his things. These days you don't have to know someone in person. You can, like now we stream things from YouTube. City Muga is somebody we haven't met so much, but every time.
But you have a relationship with City Muga.
Yes, we have a relationship. I have actually. It's called what? The one person you just see and you admire, and you see. You watch this is something you watch on your sitting room, right? This emotional is called what? There's a way, and that's what makes journalism become a very interesting thing.
Okay,
because
sorry, I cut your train of thought. You're telling us you're a hustler. I'm sure you do not mean hustler in the sense of your political affiliation.
no,
Okay.
I
is it that
am a
you do?
businessman. Yes, I do constructions. One of my latest business is there's a business finally I did there in Kisumu. The container business. You heard of it? It
No.
had a lot of
Those
controversies.
clinics.
It was a container shops which were to be placed in Kisumu town.
The ones near the locals?
Yes, they were to be placed all over town.
Or the ones near the Coca-Cola place?
Yes. They were to be placed all over town. So that it was a private partnership between me and Kisumu County.
It was a PPP.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was funding it and running it for 10 years. But unfortunately, those people say that in a day I was earning 4 million. So they were asking if the governor is earning 1 million shillings
A day.
a day, how am I going to?
Well,
How is that one going to be?
How can you earn 4?
Yes.
But were you earning 4?
I had rolled out half of that project and I was earning 2.something million.
A day?
But it was a good project. I've actually seen
What was the project?
it. Put it this way: using containers as a business premise. Instead of putting up buildings, you have containers. So you have like a mall full of a container mall. So every business that you can think of is there. If it's a barber shop, if it's a wine and spirit, if it's a restaurant, they're all there, but they're containers.
Actually, Latif, what was happening, Kisumu was restructuring. So when Kisumu was restructuring, people had been removed from the town, and there were a lot of restructuring which was going on. So when I saw that thing, I felt that was the right time to bring the idea. So the idea was to bring people back in a very structured manner. And then after people were given spaces, I had an idea of I'd talked to a certain microfinance bank, which was going to give these people loans. So there was a certain special card which you were being given. So when you had that card, you could go to that microfinance and get a loan up to 200,000 shillings. But when I did this thing for like 5 months and it was working so well, a certain politician came and told me that I was going to deny them to get people who would attend their rallies in 2022.
You see why we talk about those power purchase agreements being strict, right? You put in a 2 billion shilling project and then it's a political thing. It's the same kind of thing you're talking about.
So
here.
this
It's come
guy-
up with a
this-
brilliant business idea.
the-
You sign a contract, but that contract has ways in which someone can just come and walk all over it.
So this person told me that, you know what,
Eh.
if this project work, you are going to make people so busy, people are going to be very employed. The ripple effect is that you are going to create an environment where there is no idlers, there is no one who is going to attend the rally. You know, now in Kisumu, if you call a rally which starts at 10, at 9 it's already full because there is no job. There is no company there. So we wanted to try to find a way of how to formalize that informal sector.
Did you have a contract?
This thing was advertised on a newspaper. I won the tender. I signed. I do not want to talk so much about the matter because it's before court.
Okay.
But one thing that I know is that this country, there are people who don't respect contract or laws, which they create their own. So that is one of the business. I exported that idea to other counties. I went and did a very good project there in Kakamega. In Kakamega, I did not face any opposition. I went, had a conversation, did that thing, left it. The county is the one which is running it. But in Kisumu, the problem was that Babior Newton actually was brought up there. They saw me there. They know my parents. My parents work in Juakali there. So they are feeling that, it's like being arrested. Then you are saying, why are you leaving this jail of poverty? Why can't you just stay with us?
Stay there.
Yeah.
You also write.
I write. I write books. And in writing books, I have created a lot of connections. So this is how it works. Like I wrote Oparanya's book, which is coming also, or I wrote Raila's book, right? So from that point is where I met Oparanya, I met Joe, I met Manu Chandaria, So when I'm writing to all these people, they are paying money, and they pay top dollar, I may say. It's money which come from maybe 5 million to 7 million shillings to write one biography. So I can say that this is a hidden part, which is not so many people know that, that one. So I take that money, I reinvest it, maybe in real estate, I buy house like that, because I have learned that being at this age where we are in, from 30 to 40 years, it runs so fast. It runs so fast. You don't always have time because you are very energetic, but you are so much involved in so many things.
Okay.
If you concentrate in wrong things, you may just be you will click 40 when you have no resources, and that is when life starts. So you need to be really aware of things around you. So
So you've written books about Raila Odinga.
Yes.
And others. Let's start with the Raila Odinga book. When did you publish? When was the book written?
It was
When
in
did you-
2017. The book was called The Raila Conspiracy. Secrets Behind Denying Him the Kenyan Presidency. I actually launched this book before a month before election, just at the same time I have launched this one. And I can remember when one day I met Raila Odinga and he asked me that why have I decided on that title? And I told him that unfortunately I don't think if you are going to win this election, this one is so much predetermined. As a business person, I think you are really losing a lot. Me, I just felt he's losing money on something he was going to lose.
Okay. So had you approached him to write this book? Had he approached you to write this book? And then were you in constant consultation with him over writing later?
Okay. There are two ways of how, when I read small books of how leaders rise. Some leaders are being nominated on the table. Some rise on their own. And some, they say, have been sent by this prophet, like David was sent. When I felt that I wanted to write, I nominated myself. It was my own idea. And it's just like Standard newspaper here. If Standard newspaper puts Raila on the front and say why Raila is winning, that is Standard media, right? So I took it as because I love writing. I wanted to write something sensational about also this person. And it's hard to write truth sometimes. Very hard, because there is a lot of opinions. But I just had to write that one because when I wrote the book, I approached him. I told him, I've written something here. Can you read it?
So you approached him after you wrote the
After
book.
I wrote the book.
Okay. Is this a biography, or is this a biography of events that took place around his life?
Okay, when he gave me an opportunity now to interview him is when it becomes a biography. But before I gave it to him, it was a biography of events.
Of the events.
Then there are two types of biography. There is authorized biography, and then there is unauthorized biography. So if you look at that Raila book, you will see it is written authorized biography. Though he did not agree with so many things that I wrote there. He did not agree that he was not going to be president in 2017. That was a hard fact to him. And I told the people who are editing the book with me that is my opinion. And actually, I did predict that was going to end in Supreme Court. It did, right? And actually, he didn't become the president. It was very difficult to contest with an incumbent who is in power, who knows what power is, who has unfinished business. I think that is something which in Africa people tend to wish away, but it's something. It's very hard to compete with incumbents.
So would you say then the hallmark of this authorized biography
Yes.
now was that election that essentially was lost? Is that the thing that folks are centering around when reading this particular book?
The book has, I have read other books which were written on Raila Odinga. Raila is somebody who is
an enigma.
Is an enigma.
There's a book by that title.
Yes. Actually, Raila is a statesman. He has inspired a whole generation. He is somebody who is, though us, we were born in 90s, but people who grew up in his generation like Muga, that mentioning that Raila, name Raila, is just like, is somebody, in Badejo defines him as fragility providence. That is how Badejo defines him. So Raila is somebody who, he exists his space very well in the history. And for somebody who want to write history or who want to train in writing history, must start from discussing him, Kenyatta, Odinga, and that. If you read those 4 books, you know the history of Kenya. But you did ask me a question. I think you may come again.
Yeah, so I
I'm
was
losing the
saying,
track,
so in this authorized biography, was the center or the hallmark of it this election, which you said he predicted, which you said you predicted that he did not win? Was that what everything was centered around?
No, the book it had some good research work from the 90s. What my political opinion about 90s. Though I was not born in those years, I have to concede that. But I feel that if Ford, the party, never got split into 2, might be that one will have changed the political game in Kenya. Might be Odinga will have become the president, and with Odinga being the president, Kibaki will have become president earlier. It might be Raila, that generation will have emerged earlier in 1998, that when we were dawning in 1992, he will have become president earlier than that. So there's one point where Kenyan politics got stagnant, I think is in 1990s, when Moi decided that now I'm going for the last term. I think there was some stagnation there, and it stagnated the generational change. But all in all, when he left the space, the political development that took place after that in 2002 brought change, and I think things happened at the right time. Kibaki being the president in 2002, that was a milestone for us. We need someone who is going to bring that Kibaki feeling. I was a young boy, but I felt like there is actually an opportunity to grow in this country, because my parents are commoners. My father used to, when I ask him something when I was young, he tells me that the government has taken all the money because there is campaign. I don't know if it still happens. So I used to ask my
You don't know if it happens or if parents are still telling their kids that.
So I used to ask my father that which kind of government is this which can take all the monies because there is campaign and then return them after a campaign. So I wanted to know the government, how it works. That's why even actually when I went to study, I studied something which was called government, political science. And when I studied it, I went back and told my father that I think this was just an excuse for you to tell us that you don't have, you were putting blame on the government. So, which is very good. It's a good way of trying to balance this thing. So the book actually tells the history of Kenyan politics, the history of Raila Odinga, in my own opinion, the history of how we got to, and one of the most matrix politics he has ever played, biggest political bandwagon Raila ever organized, called Pentagon. And you know, Pentagon is where William Ruto, Najib Balala, Norman Nyaga, Musalia Mudavadi, they formed that. Actually, that Pentagon is like a university of politics, because everyone who was there is somehow right now contributing in Kenyan political development in one way or the other. So I can attribute Raila as the teacher of politics in this country. And I can say that Moi was the professor. He was the head of dean. It's like a dean. So right now we have Hustler, who is William Ruto. Is going to be the inventor of something. He has invented something. He is the bridge between the freedom, is the bridge between Raila Odinga's type of politics and another. He is starting his own brand of politics. You know, I will attribute Raila's politics as as a there's something that he was fighting for there, which is Raila is fighting for freedom. He wants all Kenyans to be the same. You get it? So now we are getting into a version of politics of someone who wants Kenyans to earn the same, Kenyans to live the same life, Kenyans who are below to come on top of the table.
Can I
for
go
their
to the
matters to be discussed.
Can I go to the activities then that you then involved yourself in, then that brought about the writing of this book, right?
Yeah.
So you said you met him after
Yes,
you had
yes.
already written the book.
Yes.
So did anything then change in the manner of which you were, because then one would assume that the version changed after you met the man, right?
Yes, yes.
So then did he then say, because I would think that if you were writing a biography of somebody, that you sat with them regularly, you attended meetings that they attended, you attended events that they attended, you got an opportunity to pick his brain, to really figure out how this individual worked. Because if somebody authors a biography, then you've mirrored this individual for some time.
Yeah.
You've heard from them, you've drank from their cup, etc., etc. Did you spend time doing this and writing about some of the activities that he was involved in, and then some of the things that he then told you?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. There are process of writing a biography. The first process is that you have to research on your own about that person. Let's say now I'm writing a biography about Latif. I will research on my own. So actually there are two processes of writing a biography. First, I will ask Latif, I want to write your biography. Are you available? Then we sit down with Latif day to day. Then there is a second way of writing a biography. I've realized that Latif doesn't have time, but I want to work on this. I work on my part first, then I will involve him once I've worked on my part and tell him, this is what I've done. Can you go and read it and see what we can add on it? And something very interesting, which I can always say, most of the people, Raila never turned that request. When I went to him, he never turned it down. He listened to it. Then after some times, he called me. We had a conversation. He asked me, just a general. Then when we finally blended, is when he opened up to me on some, and then we had like around 23 questionnaires.
So in this particular case,
Yes.
what was the process? Did you go to Raila and tell him, I'd like to write your biography? Are you available? And then he told you, I'm too busy. Then you started writing. Or did you write
Yes.
and then come to him and tell him, I told him, I have been writing, I have been working. Can you give me your opinion?
I had already engaged. When you don't have a name, like from where I was starting, I was making a name. So I had tried to engage his handlers, and then they told me, just go ahead. When you are in this situation, we are going to engage on it.
Okay.
Yes.
So at what point then did you engage?
When I was having first draft, biography will be ended on sixth draft.
So at draft one,
Yeah.
the
draft one
handlers
is-
introduced you to
Yeah.
Raila.
Yes, after I did the first one, they introduced me because I could not proceed now from that point.
Okay.
Because
So what
when I
happened
produced,
now after you were introduced?
what happens now? They asked me to. We agreed that I go and prepare a questionnaire. A questionnaire was having 42 questions. Actually, never answered all of them. I answered like 30 questions. The rest, he had his own reservation why he was not going to answer. So those questionnaires, they became part of the book. So I incorporated them to be part of the book. Then when we were making a third draft, now they became so interested. And one thing when you're working with a politician and he has given his opinion on a document, I can tell you that the interests become different. They want to see that thing every stage.
All right.
Yes.
So by draft 3,
So I will say
You
that
are
I was
more
lucky.
interested.
I was lucky that you see, like when a football is being played, then players make a line on the defense, then the ones who are playing on the other side think that is going to be off, then the opponent player scores. So that is when they come to realize that is one goal down. You get it? So I think I was lucky to be in that
You
situation.
scored.
Yes, I scored. And
For
then
the
it's when
defense
they
coach.
now got interested in playing along. And they say, you see, we already have contributed in this thing. We must now have this thing address this kind of issue. Electoral justice.
And all. Let's take a break and
Yeah.
then we go through again the stages, because what we'd like to understand is the stages of writing such a book
Yeah.
about a certain subject.
Yes.
And how you interact with the person, how you get to do your own background research,
And
how
also,
you
Latif, what I want
engage with them.
to add is not easy. It may appear very easy.
But it's not.
It's not.
You will tell us.
Thank you.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The conversation continues at 20 minutes to 8. This is the Situation Room on SpiceFM. We are online as well, SpiceFM KE, YouTube and Facebook, and www.spicefm.co.ke. Babior Newton is an author who has been telling us about the work and the journey that he goes through when he is writing a book, especially biographies. And then now we are joined by a second guest in the studio, Bethuel Oduo. Good morning to you, Bethuel.
Good morning, Eric.
Good to have you on the show. Welcome to the other hot seat of the Situation Room. It's good to have you here. Bethuel, you're also an author.
Yes, I am an author, mostly known as a ghostwriter. Yeah, to be specific.
What is a ghostwriter?
A ghostwriter is somebody who writes on behalf of the main character, so to speak, for lack of a better word. We are the people behind some of the writings you see, and when it comes to biographies or autobiographies mostly, because we write for others when they want to appear as if they have written for themselves. Yeah.
So the ghostwriter is basically the person who's putting in the words for an autobiography. Like Eric Latif is publishing his book about his stories. In some cases, he may write it himself. In some cases, he may get Bethuel to shadow him and then write the story.
Definitely.
Okay.
No.
Does a ghostwriter also just write and he publishes it under his own name?
If a ghostwriter writes and publishes under his name, it becomes a biography, not an autobiography. Yeah. I can write about Eric from my point of view, what I know about Eric. I can collect all the material I can and write about Eric. That is a biography. But when Eric writes it, his name appears on the book, but I am the one who is in the background, who has written. Eric maybe has given me some rough sketches. Some could even be handwritten. We've seen materials on foolscaps, but we put it together. After I put it together, then I write it in English, so to speak.
Yep.
And my name, ideally,
Does not
should
appear.
not even appear there. But Eric's name appears.
But the question that I think has not been asked, and we've been skirting around, is, but then are you allowed to tell people that you are the one behind it?
This is negotiated because ideally some ghostwriters sign an NDA where there's some things you're not supposed to say. Some are allowed to put their name there in different forms. For example, they can say this story was narrated to. They say as narrated to. Or they can say Eric Latif with Bethuel Oduo.
Okay.
And that is negotiated. But sometimes you're a real ghost. You don't appear anywhere. Your name appears nowhere.
You
apart
don't
from maybe
exist.
there's acknowledgements where they can say, I was assisted by so-and-so. Yeah.
So are we also saying that neither then can you rock up one day and decide, well, I'm going to write a biography about Eric Latif, and you do that on your own accord? You must then, even as a ghostwriter, have the go-ahead from the subject.
No.
You don't have to have the go-ahead.
I don't have to. If it's a biography, I don't have to.
Okay.
But as a matter of politeness and courtesy, sometimes it's good to consult or to involve the person. But ideally, it's always from my point of view. If it is a biography, yes, I write what I know about the person. Let me give you examples.
Right.
President Obama. About hundreds of people have written about
Biographies,
him.
yes.
They don't have to tell him.
Right.
They just write what they know about Obama and what they feel and what they have collected.
Sure.
And they roll it out in the market. So Obama sees it the way somebody else would see the book. Yes.
Okay, so essentially we've established that a biography is not necessarily the life events of an individual, but that it is facts, its truths, its opinions by an author about the subject of the writing, right?
Yes.
Okay, so who are some of the people that you've written about in the Kenyan context?
I've written some books on my own, and I have co-authored others. I've written the autobiography of Honorable Oburu Odinga, Dr. Oburu Odinga. I've co-written Phoebe Asio. I've written James Osogo, a book called Honorable Deeds, and I'm in the process of writing others. There are others I'm not supposed to disclose that I was in the background. Yes.
And how do you go about collecting your information?
Some of the subjects we write about are public figures. So you can collect information from very many sources. I can do interviews with people who know them very well, relatives, friends, former teachers, former employers, former work colleagues, or I can go to the archives. I can go to the public archives. I can go to the media archives. I've been so many times to the archives, including this place, either to pick materials, information, or even pictures that I use in the book. In my last project, I had to go and get facts from old newspapers as old as 1961, just to be sure of the dates, so that facts are not disputed, especially on several happenings that were there. So you really have to go to places. And I also remember going to villages, sort of shadowing the subject and going to villages and talking to people who knew this person and have known him for many years. And different people will give you different accounts of the subject you're writing about. So it's a project and it takes time. It takes time. Actually, the shortest I've written was I think 6 months. It was the shortest time it took me to write. But in this case, this person had a raw manuscript.
They already had done a lot of the work.
Which had been done. He'd done like 40%.
Okay.
So my job is to look at it, because this is what we call the bones, and I put in the flesh. You see, look at dates, look at facts, look at the chronology of events, look at the plot, see whether it forms a story, and then arrange it in a way that when the readers go through it, they see that this was done by somebody who knows how to plot a story. Writing is basically a storytelling exercise. When you're writing a biography or even an autobiography, you must arrange it chronologically because it's a book. The events must be sequential. Yes.
Is your experience the same?
Very much the same. He has actually said something there, which I have been asked with so many people, and they feel that if I do that, I'm actually just trying to get into that space. He has answered that a biography, you must not even involve that person. But it courtesy, you can involve him and ask him, what do you think about what I've written? Then he has also explained that ghostwriting is actually, you can decide to be known and you can also decide not to be known, which something which is, personally, when I started writing, how I came to discover that I can do it, I first did a ghostwriting. Then it became so good. Then I say, okay, why can't I do it myself? So, and he's somebody, by the way, we've consulted a lot. Even when I was doing Raila's book, I used to consult with him and ask him. He has been in this game.
Is your mentor?
Yes, longer. So I used to consult with him and ask him, I'm doing this, what do you think? And he will advise me, do like this, go in this thing like this.
There is always the matter of what individuals may refer to as the private lives of public figures. How do you draw the line between writing what you know to be true and revealing secrets that perhaps somebody would prefer to keep hidden?
Thank you. Can I answer that? Can I go first?
You will both answer.
Oh. Now, that one is where you come where Miguna exists. That is the gray area where Miguna comes in. If you read Peeling Back the Mask, it's almost... He's coming there. He's in that middle line. That is exactly what he wrote, speaking about the private life, private conversation, private details, private meetings. You see, when you are a ghostwriter or a biographer, if you do that, you can be sued. If you do that and it appears that it is not what happened, you're actually running, that's almost libel and defamation. So even when you are writing, you have to be sure that you are not doing a defamation.
Bethuel?
I'll talk like a professional because I've been through this and I've gone through the entire works. You know, the value chain involves concepts all the way to the reader. And after you've done it, you must have several drafts. In the case of a biography, you must have several drafts. And at some point, when you've gone through the facts and established the facts, you must pass this document through a lawyer, somebody who can see whether there are any elements that might drag you to court, whether there is anything that would be libelous about what you've written. And if you don't do that, then you'll find yourself elsewhere when the book rolls out. And we've seen it happen.
Andrew Morton.
Andrew Morton did it, and you saw what happened. But on the other hand, you have to be careful to know where to draw a line. But it has to go through a legal hand or pen before you roll it out. Because I'm not a lawyer. I wouldn't say I would know whether this statement can be misconstrued or can be ambiguous and can be misinterpreted in a way. So you have to do that if you are a real professional biography writer. Yes, otherwise you'll be in trouble.
Why do we need these pieces of literature in society today? Why do we, oftentimes we say, some have seen it as an insult, but all right, that if you want to hide away some of these treasures, put them in books. Why is it important to have them in our societies and communities today about some of these figures?
There are many people we can write about, but I know most of the biographies that we are used to are from politicians or public figures, in a way. Now, as their name goes, these are public figures. They make decisions. They're in our lives. They determine our lives. They can shape how we are and what we do. Now, they owe us explanation. They owe us transparency. We must sometimes unmask who they are. So they have made decisions that have changed societies and lives. Now, when they go down 6 feet under, questions will be asked. Why did you make this decision?
Sure.
All the way from family to the public. Why did so-and-so decide this should happen in our country? So if this person documents why he did what he did or why she did what she did, then it helps to exonerate him from
to even
future.
establish
Yes, or establish where the truth is.
Indeed.
For example, there's a debate going on now about who went to which school or which university. Now, if you write a biography or an autobiography, this person will say, here I am. This is my educational journey. My academic journey started here, ended here.
Yeah.
Some of them could even give us copies of those documents that people are asking about in the annex.
Sure.
And you see, they say, I went to this school, this was my teacher, these were my work colleagues, and we interview those people. And they document it.
Do you think we write enough as African societies about individuals, about the movers and shakers of society, or even about those who want to leave a legacy for their children and things like this? Do you think we write enough?
We don't write enough. In fact, I would say the proliferation of what we are now seeing started from when Obama decided to document his life, because many people don't want to write. I remember for about 30 to 40 years, the only biographies we had were Not Yet Uhuru, Facing Mount Kenya, very few biographies. But then after Obama, we have last year we had about 5. This year we're going to have around 10 coming out. 2 weeks ago we had Zipporah Kitoni.
Yep.
Yesterday we had Lydia Nzomo, and in few weeks' time there are some that I will roll out. I don't want to say here, because they're feeling more accountable to society. They're feeling more accountable to family. Pressure comes from different sources for these people to write and document their lives.
Or even feeling more
Yes.
free and comfortable to speak up about their accomplishments and the challenges that they've gone through in life.
And you see, they do it. If you look at most of the people who write about their stories, they are averagely above 55, not younger, because they feel obliged. And there is this saying that the older you are, if you can't lie, if you can't speak the truth, why lie? Yeah, all this makes them want to write.
But it has also been said that people write biographies do intimate it to hide the truth, because they give the version of events as they would see or as they deem suitable.
Right.
And it's in the public domain. So that is what people consume.
It will be on record.
It will be on record.
And for sure, you see, like in other developed democracy, let's say in the United States of America, if a presidential candidate someone want to run for president, he writes his story, so that if Latif come and write a story later, it is just a counter of what the story they had narrated. So they write the original version of what they want to be known.
You own your story.
Yes, like Condoleezza Rice, no higher honor. He's the one who knows what he faced when he was the Secretary of State, right? What the experiences have. So if any other person comes and writes a story after he has written his story, and that's why many people are encouraged to write their own story first, before anything. Like if William Ruto had written his own biography, now his own, he has sat down and written his own autobiography, right? My book will have come second. So my book will have written a totally different thing. I want to go this direction, because he would have addressed most of his life stories.
I've seen instances where somebody writes his autobiography, but then if he's a public figure, a well-known public figure, for example, Winston Churchill or President of America, or Oginga Odinga, for example, you'll find that his PA could write, Odera Odinge wrote about his journeys with Odinga. We've seen the Queen's butler writing her book. We've seen a gardener writing a book about the Queen. We've seen different people who are around or associated with the person. Even the physician writing what he knows about that particular person. So books are written and then revised or updated.
As a ghostwriter, so you are ghosting my autobiography. And then I've given you this is what I want to come out, right, in this story. But you, in your own research, you established that some of those things are embellishments of the truth. Do you have an obligation to actually go with what I'm telling you, or to correct it?
I told you in some instances we sign an NDA. And when you're writing about yourself, there are some things you might not want the public to know. And I'll be honest, there are some things that are not written in autobiographies. Because if they are written, they might be libellous. Don't forget, the moment you document something, it can be used in a court of law.
It's evidence.
Because you approved it for public
Consumption.
Because before it is published, you have to approve it. If it's an autobiography. Now, if it is a bio and somebody writes something that is not true about you, you will go to court. If it's an autobiography and you signed an indemnity with the ghostwriter, then it is a public document. Now, if you hid something, if you hid something from that, then you are opening up the box for other people to write your biography and talk about the truth.
A question, Bethuel,
Yeah.
is I am lying in my autobiography. Well, there's not necessarily lying, but there's some part of the story.
You're
not
economical,
comfortable
you're
with.
economical with the truth.
Yes. And you, as a person who's writing, who's putting it in English, can clearly see this guy is lying. Will you go with that? Are you obligated to go with what I'm saying? Or do you have an obligation to say, this one we can't put it that way? Because it's not the truth.
Well, we've been accused of being merchants of.
Peddling false information.
Yes, that happens because I only document what you have told me, and that's why at the beginning I said sometimes we indicate there in a byline to say as narrated to,
Us by.
as narrated to,
Yes.
or with, which means what is there is what you told me, nothing outside.
Yeah.
So I do my job, I go my way. Yeah.
Bethuel and Babior, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us this morning. It's a short 1 hour. We'd like to have you again so we can even talk further in subsequent Fridays. It's an interesting conversation, right? Accept our invitation, open invitation. Babior Newton is an author. He's written several books. The one that's out now is
The Rise of a Hustler.
The Rise of a Hustler.
From chicken seller to presidency.
Hey.
Something you really need to read. Hot.
Bethuel Oduo is also an author. What's your latest
My
project?
latest book was an autobiography of Dr. Oburu Oginga. It's called In the Shadow of My Father. Yes.
That's another nice one. It was also serialized even
Yeah,
in the
it was
nation.
serialized in the local
Thank
papers.
you. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us, and have a lovely day. Keep it here for more conversations coming up.